Okay, welcome everyone. And I'm Dorota Klop-Sowinska. Very happy to be for the second time guest on the podcast for Chris Parker, Business Simplicity podcast. And today we are talking mainly on Chris' new book, Lead from Love. And Chris, question to you: why would people want to listen to your podcast and our episode?
Well, thank you, Dorota, for joining for the second time. I believe it'd be extremely valuable for people to listen to this if they want to, one, see a relationship between a coach, you, and a coachee, me, and reflect on that. We got into topics of self-leadership, self-discovery, self-awareness, particularly in the area of how to break down barriers, discover when maybe you're being led by fear instead of love, all in service to having a more joyful and meaningful life at work at home. So I believe it'd be extremely valuable to listen to this, Drata.
The Business Simplicity Podcast, where we learn about strategies and tactics to succeed through simplicity, with your host, Chris Parker.
And welcome back to the Business Simplicity Podcast. And I am having a conversation with Dorota Klop-Sowinska, and this is her second time on the podcast. And
Yes.
the last one was July 2020, so very early guest. Yeah, it was a while ago. That was in the middle of COVID time, if I remember right. If we still remember COVID. And Drata is a coach, counselor, and she's been my coach as well. And one thing I would like to do is just express gratitude and appreciation, because through that coaching procedure, that journey, I discovered within me my ability to say no to certain things. Like if oftentimes I jumped too quickly into helping others and sacrificing time. And my ability to say no also created the space that I was able to say yes, and say yes, for example, to the book, Lead from Love with Rumi. And so for that insight that we discovered together, Drata, I'm extremely thankful. Thank you
Hmm.
for that.
Yeah, thank you for saying. I was not expecting that we will start in this way. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging. And yes, I'm happy to be here and for the second time. And if you would ask me when did I think was the last time, I'd probably say 2 years ago. It's like 4 years ago. It's like wow.
Yeah, that was early on, and I think this is probably, I don't, I'm well over, in the 200s of episodes,
Oh
and
wow.
learning and enjoying every single one of them. So it's I think the focus on this, and I think it's related to um that ability to say no to certain things so you can say yes to
Mm-hmm.
others, is really
Mm-hmm.
around self leadership. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is what we wanted to play around with and kick around with. And you coach oftentimes international people. You're based here in the Netherlands, but like myself, international people,
I would
and you
say
have
only international people. Dutch
only
people don't like me.
maybe. Oh wow, maybe we can unpack that later. But maybe can you just describe a little bit, like who are you serving, and how do
Yeah.
you serve them, and what are the general outcomes of that, and then maybe I can reflect a little bit from my experience as well.
Yes. Sure. So Um, I call myself a purpose-driven career coach. And what does it mean? Basically, something what I did with my own career. I turned with what I thought was a regular career into something that I believe is driven really by purpose, by my passion, but something that many years ago, before I changed, was unimaginable to actually achieve. It would be like, okay, Dorota, tomorrow we go to the moon. I would say, oh yeah, sure. Like it was at that time, I say you're going to be a coach. Say, oh yeah, sure. Maybe in another lifetime, right? So being able to do that myself, and then a couple of years later through the discovery of helping people to do the same. So I work with, like I said, actually only with international people, and that's not because I discriminate on Dutch people, but probably Dutch people go to Dutch coaches, and international people who live in Netherlands come to me. I also work with people outside of Netherlands who maybe want to come to Netherlands or want to escape the Netherlands, or are somewhere in the world and that they feel maybe that's not completely my place, like expats. So they gravitate towards me, and I help them with their professional journeys to very often to change from a job that it's okay job, pays well the bills. Maybe there's alignment with strengths and skills, but there's something missing, the spark, the joy, the passion, however you want to call it. And but there is a desire, for that to come into their life. So I help mainly with that, but I also help senior or executive people. Maybe not, I was partially with leadership skills, but I very much focus on the communication part of leadership skills, also how you become a great communicator, but also how you learn to say no, to set the boundaries, to be more confident. So I would say those aspects of leadership are the ones that I really enjoy and coach people on. Yes, this would be those two main areas. So helping people have great careers that they feel connected to and proud and happy in doing.
And your book, Career Jump, which came out well before the first episode. I'll put a link in the show notes again. I think it's really a framework for people to reflect on their wants and needs, desires, skills, strengths, as a way of
Yes.
orienting on new potential, new possibilities. So when people come to you for coaching now, the people typically have an idea of where they want to jump to, or they come in with, I'm just itchy and uncomfortable and I know I need a change, or is it some combination?
Both and more. So some people don't have a clue. They only know, oh, I hate. Sometimes it's really hating the job, and not having a clue what else could they be doing. Sometimes it's, oh, I don't like my job, and I have a couple of ideas, help me to choose. Um, yeah, sometimes they have a vague idea, but at the end they figure out something else. So all scenarios are possible, and I've seen all scenarios happening, which makes the job even more interesting and excited because sometimes it happens that we assume certain goals and they exactly play out as assumed, but most of the time we are ending up somewhere in a different place that we never thought, because we go on an exploration journey with coaching, like you said, through discovering their values, talents, skills, and some of them really want to tap into the, however cliche it may sound, but it's true, like to the heart, to the passion, to the purpose, and that lies very often on those deeper levels that rationally you cannot sometimes grasp. Sometimes people don't even actually want to acknowledge to themselves what it is.
Mm,
So it's the process of uncovering
yeah.
uh, of what that might be.
And in our coaching process, we completely failed to achieve my desired outcome. So, so this is also a way how things evolve, because my desire was, if I could find that one thing to focus on for eternity, I don't know, or at least for tomorrow, then my monkey mind and my shiny object syndrome could settle down and I could just lean into something and get it done. What I realized in our discussions is that is just simply not me. Meaning I
Mm,
am multi-hyphenate, or I am a portfolio thinker and doer. And actually what my challenge was I was saying yes to too many things, so
mm-hmm.
I don't go down to one, but at least trim it back from 100 or
Yeah, yeah.
too many. And I think that was really an insight, and that gave me I don't know, shifted my mindset on my ability to multitask in, at a scale. And it was really, really nice. Yeah, it worked.
Well, it was a happy failure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, failure and failure as a learning
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
Like,
Failing forward. I love the quote, failing, like the phrase, instead of failing forward. Um, yeah, yeah.
And looping back to the book, just a little plug, I'll put in the show notes, Career Jump. It's on Amazon, certainly Amazon NL. And I also have a link to the framework. So it's a downloadable PDF. I'm not sure if you remember that, but it's one of the most downloaded things from my website. So
Really?
yeah, so
Oh, wow. I
there are
didn't know.
definitely people who are interested in this, in reviewing. I remember I went up north with your book. Um, I remember I was at a beach up like by Snake or something for some reason. But anyways, I was kind of on an outdoor patio at a restaurant. It just took me a couple hours to really work through it. And it was really
Only a couple of hours. You were fast.
I can read pretty quick and reflect. And it was but I remember I was definitely within a day of walking and reflecting, and I took time for it. It was really a gift. So if we loop back to self leadership, and I'm going to grab onto a few things,
Yeah.
define some words,
Mm-hmm.
leadership,
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
Rumi. What do you mean by self leadership? Like, so like if you help people with the leading of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean to you?
Yes, it's a good question. And by saying that, I mean, I don't know the answer yet. Let the answer
Mm,
come to me. But I would say I would tie it again, to something that I know and then what works for me, and I see what works for others is, the self-leadership needs to have a certain foundation and certain basis, and it starts with knowing yourself,
mm-hmm,
and understanding, how you work, what makes you tick in the sense of like what is really truly important. So going to this, core values, thanks to which, you might not have, like we were talking, like you might not have, maybe exact direction, okay, I'm going to this port, but you at least have a map and a compass, and okay, where do I want to, which direction I want to go. So I would say this, the self-leadership starts with, knowing what's your foundation, what are your values. I would say strength and skills, that's something like the next phase. So it's like in the core, in the essence, who you are as a human being. Of course, your strength play to that as well. But most importantly, this foundation, the values. I always say to all my coaching clients, I'm not going to, leave you out the door if we don't have, and you don't have your self understanding on on what are we building the house.
mm,
So whatever you call the house, is it career, is it relationship, is it life, is it leadership, it needs to stand on a solid foundation, and solid foundations are values, right? And then the mission is the roof, we can call it, and the skills would be the walls. And the passion would be the open heart at
mm-hmm,
home, right? So we still use this metaphor. So that, and then really, directing uh, the attention from within yourself, to going outside. Like a lot of people are busy. Okay, so what jobs out there? How can I fit myself, to the market? And of course, you need to also look what's available out there. How do I market myself? How do I, promote and sell myself? But if you are lost within yourself, then you have a high chances or risking that you will, end up in the wrong port, or in the wrong
yeah.
house, or building a wrong house or a shaky house.
Or yeah, or if living to the expectations or obligations imposed or by others, I think you can definitely be pulled off course by these things. And like when you talk about self knowledge, self awareness,
Mm-hmm.
I've always been amazed in how um, doing that kind of reflecting work, also with frameworks like MBTI, Myers Briggs,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
Belbin, or
Mm-hmm.
DISC, or these personality and character profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's always risk of putting someone in a box, um, but just to realize that this is how I'm programmed in a way. This is what I, not really my values, but this is just my
Mm-hmm.
nature.
Mm-hmm.
opens you up to the fact that, well, there's so many other natures,
Mm.
there's so many, an infinite number of combinations that other people are interacting with the world and perceiving the world from a sometimes a fundamentally different lens.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think, this is a way of that self-leadership for me has expressed in I believe a much stronger, leading of others, just
Mm-hmm.
becoming aware of the fact that we're different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go into values, um, I imagine it's hard to put values to words as well, because I think a lot of these values, I suppose, would be measured more by behavior and habits. You mean this is how it exhibits itself?
Yes.
And going into those
Yes.
core values and making sure they are your core values and not some sort of hidden
Yeah.
trauma induced, something else
Yeah.
going on. How do you
Yeah.
navigate that? How do you help people discover their true intent and their true deep intent and purpose and value?
Yeah, I think that the actually discovering of the value is probably the most, although we do in the beginning, it's also probably the most difficult. Although some sounds so easy because okay, you can start with okay, here's the list of the values and go select the values that resonate with you, right?
Mm,
Sounds very simple, and yet we all later dive in and discuss: are those really the values, or are the values that you think are your values?
right.
And very often the ones that we would select based on the list. Okay, so I give people the list of values and say, okay, what's really important? And they say, career, family, love, and so on, right? So it's like what we think or what we think other expect us to say, that those will be our values. But one of the exercises that I like to do with people is to actually ask them, think of the difficult moments in your life, difficult choices that you had to make when you were pulled in two different directions, right? So, for example, when I wanted to move to the Netherlands for being with my husband, so the value being love, but I was really doubting, oh, shall I do that? Is the right thing? So there was something else pulling me back in the other direction, saying not moving to the Netherlands. And what was that? Now it was stability, because moving to the Netherlands meant in the beginning not having a job, risking a lot, cutting ties with home, leaving your friends, and so on. So there was like a big conflict on one thing, adventure, love, something new, and the other, stability, loyalty to your family, where you are. And I say, okay, look at those big moments in your life. What made it difficult? What values were struggling or in conflict with each other? What did you choose in the end, and how did it play out in your life? And if you look in a couple different examples, can it be big life situations, but can be also smaller? Is there any threat there? And most important, what kind of impact does it have in your life? Because like you said, we also want to make sure that the values that we are selected and saying, okay, these are the values I live by and I want to live by, are the go-to values, right? So not values that we do in order to run away from our traumas or to hide ourselves. So I would say that's a really powerful exercise to do. And most importantly, the third is you need to observe yourself and actually observe how you make the decisions. And whenever you feel, oh, there's a certain conflict, even like, okay, do I go out with my friends on Friday night or I stay at home on the couch and watch Netflix? There's a conflict value. And what
Mm,
do you choose? And
yeah.
and like that, you can really discover what the true values are and what are you driven by in your life. And say, okay, is that serving me? Yes or no? Do I want to make any shifts? And that's how you
Yeah.
discover your true values.
Yeah, if it's serving me, and I want to grab onto this with the concept of love, and we're doing this a little different, maybe than we anticipated, but like if we're going to like self leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and then we apply the concept of love and loving self.
Mm-hmm.
um how, like, in your decision to leave Poland and follow your heart to the Netherlands, I imagine your self love was pulling you in two different directions. and meaning, like, for one, your self-love of wanting probably to stay near friends and family, or
Yes.
you had, so I imagine your values and your intuition, your need can be pulling you in different directions. And then
Yes.
and then and then um what would it mean to you, to navigate those different tensions of caring and respecting and loving yourself? How do you make those decisions? Do you have any
Yeah.
tips and tricks on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think that's a tricky one because you have to really know yourself very well and navigate. And I also often, because it's like with those changes, like, okay, do I change my career and, follow my heart and do something and leave my stable job, right? It could be also like,
Mm,
let's say, is there enough passion and love in this new direction? And what are the things that are stopping you from there? And is that fear-based? And if it's like fear-based, like in my case, like not moving to Netherlands was fear-based, like, oh, am I going to find a job? Is it going to work out? And I knew my family will be there for me. I don't have to give up on my family, right? Maybe if it was from Australia, moving from Australia somewhere very far, it's like, okay, no, I'm not going to see them that often, but moving from Poland to the Netherlands was like, okay, my family is there around the corner. Um, but if you have those difficult decisions to say is the desire for the thing that I want a good, healthy, we can call it love or passion or attention or wherever adventure was calling me, is that powerful enough? And what's the motivation for it? And
mm.
sometimes we can also make a bad decision, right? We don't always have a guarantee that
Well,
even with our intuition value system, we will always 100%, make the right decisions.
I think this good bad decision thing is also on a spectrum of time, meaning, um, something might be perceived as a bad decision at that moment, but then you've been changed, you've been altered, you've learned, like
Yeah,
this glorious failure, learning, failing forward.
yeah.
Um, um, I wonder if there is a bad decision. I guess there are bad decisions, like
I think a
playing
bad
Russian
is
roulette, bad decision.
yeah,
Driving drunk,
yeah,
bad decision.
yeah,
There's clearly some just
yeah, exactly,
bad decisions.
exactly. Yeah.
But then if it's and I love what you said, what you brought up as a concept of fear, meaning I believe that oftentimes fear can masquerade as positive intuition that can really, no,
Mm-hmm,
no, no,
mm-hmm,
go over
mm-hmm,
here, it's safe over here, go,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
stay here.
yeah,
And it's feeding you like, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. And if you believe those things, and then, well, quite frankly, if you believe those things, then they're true. Like, no, you can't do that. Well, actually, yes, you can move to the Netherlands, become a coach of professionals and leaders and executives.
yeah.
So, Dorota, we had an idea of which Rumi quote
Yes.
to talk about, and I want to, and you had a couple in mind. So I'll give you a little moment to think about which one what is your intuition really pulling you to talk about right now.
Can I open
But
my phone and check
you
what
can
what?
open your phone, but before, so as I give you
Yes,
time to
yes.
reflect based on the conversation, what fits
Mm-hmm.
most. Um, I'd love I don't know, some feedback and reflections on, Lead from Love with Rumi. You were kind enough to attend the one of the launch events, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just really, I was very appreciative of your presence. What do you feel about Leading from Love with Rumi in the context of that book?
Um, I think truly that we need more books like that. Like we have a lot
Mm,
of um, rationally written leadership manuals with structures and procedures and processes and KPIs and all those things, which is great. We probably also need those.
for sure.
Um, but if we really see what people really need in a great leader, and people need leaders that inspire them, that uplift them. And I think your book is really a call for those leaders to go outside of corporate BS, so to say, pardon
Mm.
my French, and really connect with something that I think in corporate people prefer not to talk. Like love is like, oh, it's a word separated for I may be a relationship therapist or relations, and let's not bring love into business because I don't know even why, but that's like some sort of a taboo. Let's
People
not talk
seem
about.
uncomfortable with it. It's really
Yeah, people
interesting.
feel
You're like
uncomfortable.
what? What? We can't. What? Like,
Yeah,
we can't
yeah.
talk about. Yeah.
And I really love that about you is that you, who is a very technical person, who's like CTO, CIO, who works with AI. So you would expect a person who is extremely blue. Let's talk in a disc, right? Extremely blue, and is very separated from the topics of love and
Mm.
self-development, and very much would be maybe linked to those structures and process and procedures that you and then in yourself are able to embody and combine both. And I
Mm.
have to say, and maybe I never told you that actually, so we have some confessions to make here as well, is that I haven't met often people who would, with such a grace and actually conviction also do that, and really be authentic, talk about, tough business decisions, and at the same time bring a lot of vulnerable topics like, love leadership, um, development. It's like, wow. And I think more, especially more men, because I think probably women are more, connected to their female, loving, empathic side. Um, and I don't want to make it like a female male conversation out of it, but probably more men would need to connect and maybe read and go, into the book, but obviously, both.
Well, let me grab onto this male
Yeah.
female thing, and thank you for the feedback. My my journey has been to discover and connect with more parts of myself, and I think this is kind of an expression of that. And my belief is if people are able to accept as true not only their intellectual rational self but also their emotional self, their spiritual self, their physical self, um, then there's just more joy in life, there's more satisfaction in life, more power in life as well. um, but if we talk about this masculine feminine, um, one of the things I've read recently is in as the evolution of people, men or masculine energy that can be embodied in primarily masculine energy people through their life, their part of their work is to connect more with the feminine,
Mm.
and the opposite is true as well. Those that are
Yeah.
predominantly feminine through the work is to become a more whole person, a more mature wise person, is to also connect with the yin and the yang. And
Yes. Yes.
do you see that in your coaching as well, that people that are, and regardless of gender, but particularly masculine, can or should benefit from discovering those other dimensions of themselves?
Um, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think also, I see certain type of coaching clients. And I think people who choose to go to coaching, they have already certain awareness of
Mm,
self and ability to reflect. And I work with a lot of men as females as well. But um, having said that, I really like to work with male energy because male energy is also like, okay, let's, get down to business and let's act, and as a coach, of course, you take great pride also in people, not only talking about the steps they don't want to take, but actually doing them as well. So I actually really like, to work with a good positive male energy. But what I see more as we could say, more, feminist, more in tune with yourself and really listening to what's your intuition saying, and based on that, taking those steps. And I think what you say, right? If you manage to combine both, and to, like you said, I also went on a self-discovering, journey, and connect to myself all the different parts and see myself as a whole living. um, we need both. And at the same time, like if we talk about, and not that's not to shame corporates, but I think if there was more place for vulnerability, and really leading with love, so leading with kindness and knowing yourself, and of course taking care of the profits as well, but also of people. I think the world and organization, and definitely my clients would be, really very happy people. So therefore, going to the question, about your book, I really believe that more leaders should be like on the night shelf of every reader, to read the book, and not only read, but also self-reflect and take some actions, uh,
Yeah,
even if one at a time.
my wish for the book is there's just a very short part of introducing leading from love, and I wrote that at the end, and it's 100 essays, so people can just flip to a page and let synchronicity have it. It's grouped in chapters as well, but so let's grab into that. Of those quotes that you have thought of speaking about, which one would you like to share?
Yes. Now I'm really doubting between the two. I'm torn. So see my value, my do I stick with what I chose, or
Let's go
but
crazy and do both and see what
yeah.
see which one resonates most, and what triggers some sort of insight right now.
Yeah, so the first I selected, I have it here, is if everything around you seems dark, look again, you may be the light.
Mm. If everything around you seems dark, look again. You may be the light. Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Why do you love that?
Why do I love that? I think probably I love that because very often I have to remind myself not to look outside, but to look inside and see the light in myself. Like they say, the shoemaker, like we say in Poland, the shoemaker always walks without shoes. So,
Mm-hmm.
in working and helping others, you need to also recognize your own shortcomings and where want work on yourself. So that's always a great reminder to myself. If you're looking for outside success or chasing something outside, or complain about certain things that are not working, or really focus externally, um, look inside and find the light within you. Because if we talk about the self-leadership, I really believe the big part of it is actually finding the light within you and being the lighthouse, for the other people, in a good sense. Um, yeah, and I see very often in my clients, something that my coach told me, said, Dorota, if you could only see yourself through my eyes, you would see, like, wow, like we sometimes we
Mm.
make ourselves smaller. And I see that also with my clients. If they only would be able to see themselves through my eyes, they would grow 5 inches or
Mm-hmm.
centimeters, because we very often, are great in recognizing the light of others, but less of ourselves.
Yeah,
Um,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think there's a um, sometimes people can fall into like this victim mentality that, oh, it's dark, it's bad, it's dark, it's bad, and the answer is often right there within yourself, and you can be the light, you can be the beacon, you can um, from deep within you, based on your values, you can navigate through following your intuition, um,
yeah,
and you can resolve almost anything that way. So, and what's the
yeah.
second? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, 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 yeah. And the second is, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it.
Mm. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that links very much with the first quote, is that maybe sounds a bit psychotherapeutical, but in a process of growing up, we separate ourselves, from the light that we carry within ourselves. And that in the process of searching of the light and finding the light, and being the light for yourself and for others, in order to get reconnected to that, we need to conquer those walls and barriers. And we very much often want to search for those barriers outside, but most of the times the barriers are inside in our mind, that we build through our childhood programming, through the society, the culture, school system, our own personality, and so on.
And connected to earlier in the conversation, also fear. Maybe it could be just some sort of beliefs that have convinced you that you're not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not glorious, that you're not powerful, that you're not that you don't deserve it, or whatever. And indeed that could also be imposed on you from parents, friends, life, education. I think we've all been through education journeys which have almost by definition are one size fits none. I think everyone was kind of an outcast at school, I guess. I don't know, but and if you're working with someone in your coaching, can we connect this straight to the act of coaching, meaning to help people discover that which is within them, that is the block, the obstruction?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So, the light, of course, we can see, the life within on a very different levels, and depending how deep you want to go, but linking it to, to career and what we were talking in the beginning, is really finding not only what can you do, but really what you want to do. What are you passionate, and what is the purpose? And the purpose, I say, it can be purpose with a big P, can be purpose with a small p, doesn't matter, as you believe. That makes sense to me, right? And like I say, doesn't mean that you have to go to war or start saving the oceans or whatever, like a big thing. It can be a smaller purpose, but it's purpose that it's really true to you and makes you say, yes, let's go. I want to do that. So looking, into that, and looking light from that perspective. And sometimes people don't have a clarity on what it is. So we need to dig deeper and do the work around discovering what, that purpose light is. And if we do, sometimes people are still not moving in the direction of actually what they said they truly want. And why is that? Because they have built a lot of mental barriers, or of why they cannot make, and the barriers are kept, like you said yourself, are kept by very powerful thing called fear. Right? So inside we have a small love that's like a small plant that we still need to nurture. Maybe it's a little, a seed actually of love, not a fully grown plant. And there is this very thick fear-based wall that they themselves, as a heroes in their own story, need to conquer. By the way, I maybe something I bought the storyteller tactics, and there was one of the story is the hero story and conquering the wall. So that was mine.
Well, if we talk about heroes, we talk about the hero's journey. The 12 steps of the hero's journey myth that Joseph Campbell wrote about. So in the 70s, I think. There is this um, the call to adventure is the first step,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
rejection, and then the crossing the threshold. I think at some point people have to decide to cross the threshold, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's what they do when they call you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think those 2 or 3 steps after that is meeting the mentor. So perhaps
Yeah.
maybe it's the
Yeah.
decision to, okay, I'm going to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
create the openness, and like, okay, now I need coaching, and then make that call, and then go there and meet the mentor. And the mentor could be you or someone else in their life, in fact. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I think there is this hero's journey that you go through, this trial of change, which is, now if you're going to break down things within you, that might be even a painful process.
Yes.
But
It can be, definitely.
but do that for a reason, and know that you'll come out as a newer, better version of yourself, and
Yeah.
that's the joy of that self-awareness, that self-love, that self-growth.
Yes. Yeah, and definitely, also the other element is one of those, barriers, is that people don't believe that they are worthy, that they deserve actually, of having the job that they love, and basically that translates of not believing that they are worthy of love in the first place.
Mm.
So I see that, that quote is very much links. Okay, we have love, it's there within us, and we have been, given it at the birth. But then
Mm.
through all the things that, are happening in our life, yeah,
Yeah,
even with all the best intentions, they're just the process, and sometimes we, like I said, we separate ourselves from ourselves. Um,
for sure. Oftentimes,
and
well, the best intention,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it's also, owning the light, and like we said, we know, see if it's dark outside, look within yourself, because you might be alive. Is actually giving yourself permission to be that light, and
Yeah.
saying, I'm worthy enough, of being that light. And then also what I see when working, maybe not so much on the career trajectory, but more some of my clients on the self-confidence elements, recognizing that, like I call it, over false modesty, also, lets them, keeps them safe. But also by doing that, they deprive of other people of doing the same, because we are, we humans, we like to copy others. So if we say
Mm.
no one is doing it, no one is standing in the light, well, let's not do that, right? But if one person says, hey, yes, I will do that, and the other one says, oh, I will do it too, right? So we are all start to shine the light, and we, you
Mm.
know, we are serving as example, and we enable other people to do the same, create the ripple effect.
How giving yourself permission to be your light gives others the permission as well. So people can see
Exactly.
you glowing and shimmering, and um we're starting to wrap up, and I would like to just do an invitation that when I was chatting with Dorota before we started, like, what would be a great measure of success of this episode. And one of the questions was like, well, it'd be really great if somebody had an insight, they had a spark, they had something. And with this, I would really invite you, and Dorota, let's see, after this is published, I would invite people to go to Dorota's LinkedIn or mine, and if you're triggered, if there was an insight that you discovered from this, then share it with us, and then Dorota and I will at least have a giggle and say, okay, well, mission accomplished. And but in closing, yeah, thank you for purpose driven coaching. Thank you for the influence it has had on my journey. Continue, still does. If people are interested in connecting more, of course, you can find Career Jump on Amazon. On the show notes, you can download the framework. You need them both, because the framework is just a picture, and
Yeah.
you really need the book, which is the instruction manual.
Yes.
Or
We actually, you need two books. You need Career Jump, and before and after, you need Lead from Love to actually really make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's yeah, these things can go hand in hand. Thank you for that. And
We need to offer a package deal, Chris.
Yeah. And if you want to go next level, you can find Dorota at dosocoaching.com, of course, on LinkedIn. So, Dorota, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you,
really
Chris.
enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, me too. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Visit ebullient.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player.